Hi, it's Miss Sebastian here again. I am so happy you've joined me again for another learning adventure. Today we are going to be making sweatbands for your wrists. I don't know if you've ever gotten sweat in your eyes before or had it drip down your hands and you couldn't hold on to the ball because it kept slipping out of your hand. Well, that has a lot to do with the way your body creates sweat. We're gonna see a very short video. It's a TED Talk video. It's wonderful. It's gonna talk to you all about how the body creates sweat. Then I'm gonna show you how to do a simple weaving project to make your own wrist sweatbands, but you could extend it and make it much longer to make it a headband too. Stay tuned to the end of the video because I'm going to tell you a really interesting fact about weaving and fish. So stay tuned for that. We are going to be learning about how the human body sweats. And then we're going to be weaving some sweatbands. Your objectives for today are identify 3 reasons why we sweat, name 1 ancient culture that is famous for weaving, and apply weaving techniques to create a wrist sweatband.
The finish line's in sight, and you put on an extra burst of speed. As your legs pick up the pace, your breathing gets deeper, your heart pounds faster, and sweat pours over your skin. How does this substance suddenly materialize, and what exactly is its purpose? There are a number of scenarios that can make us sweat: eating spicy foods, nervousness, and when we're sick. But exercise is probably the most familiar and common. In that case, sweating happens as a response to movement triggered deep inside your cells. As you increase your pace, your muscles work harder, increasing their demand for energy. A process called cellular respiration consumes glucose and oxygen to form ATP, the energy currency of the cell. Much of this process takes place in structures called mitochondria. The more you move, the harder mitochondria work to supply your body with energy. All this work comes at a cost, though. As the cells break down the ATP, they release heat. The heat stimulates temperature sensors throughout your body. Those receptors detect the excess heat being produced by your muscle cells and communicate that information to the hypothalamus, which regulates body temperature. The hypothalamus responds by sending signals out through the sympathetic nervous system to the sweat glands in your skin. These are distributed all over the body with especially high concentrations on the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and on your head. When a sweat gland first receives the signal, the fluid surrounding the cells in its coiled base contains high amounts of sodium and chloride. The cells pump these ions into a hollow tube that runs through the sweat gland. Then, because it's saltier inside the tube than outside, water moves into the tube by osmosis. As what's called the primary secretion builds up in the bottom of the tube, water pressure pushes it up into the long, straight part of the duct. Before it seeps onto the skin, cells lining the tube will reclaim as much salt as possible so the process can continue. The water in sweat absorbs your body's heat energy and then evaporates off of you when it reaches the surface, which in turn lowers your temperature. This process, known as evaporative cooling, was an important adaptation for our ancestors. This cooling effect isn't only helpful during exercise. We sweat in many other scenarios too. Eating particularly spicy food makes some people sweat profusely from their faces. That happens because spices trigger the same neural response in the brain that activates temperature receptors, which usually respond to increased heat. Sweating is also part of the fight or flight response, stimulated by stressful scenarios, like asking someone on a date or interviewing for a job. This happens because adrenaline stimulates muscle activity and causes blood vessels to widen. 2 responses that increase heat and trigger the sweating response. And sweating also occurs when we get sick. When we're feverish, we sweat because infections stimulate the hypothalamus to increase muscle activity, which in turn releases more energy as heat. That increases your overall temperature, a protective mechanism that makes your body less habitable for infectious agents. Like with running, sweating helps your body vent that heat. When the fever's over or you've won your race, your temperature receptors sense the decrease in heat, and the hypothalamus brings your sweating response to an end. In some cases, like after a run, the hypothalamus also signals to your body that you need to replenish the water that you've oozed out. So, when you're pushing yourself to reach that next goal, you can think of sweat as your body's very own calibrator, enabling you to go that extra mile.
So today we're going to be learning about weaving. And what is weaving? It's when you interlock different fibers together. They could be natural or they could be artificial. The ancient Egyptians wove, and really ever since people have been weaving things to keep their bodies warm in the wintertime, all people from all around the world will weave. We actually have depictions of ancient Egyptians weaving here. So that's why I love to kind of start off this presentation with them, because we actually have artwork that was done along the wall of a tomb, probably a weaver, because the Egyptians believed that when they died, they would go into an Egyptian heaven in which they would carry on their work in life, and they would also do that in the afterlife too. And of course, their tombs were made to remind them that when they did pass over from this life to the next, that they could remember what they did, and they could look at the wall, and it's kind of like a cheat sheet saying, hey, yeah, I was a weaver. That's what I'm going to do when I go into the next world. The ancient Greeks also wove, because this was a painting on the side of an amphora pot, and this would be back 2,000 years ago, whereas the ancient Egyptians could be back as far as 8,000 or more years ago. So here you can see the device that they are using to put the fibers that go straight up and down. And you can see this lady here has something that she's putting left and right. So this device here that holds the things in place is called a loom. We're going to be using a straw loom for this assignment. Central Americans also wove, and they are still weaving today. So this is a current photograph, especially from the Guatemala region of Central America. And they are very famous for this typical brightly colored woven designs. Native Americans also wove. Their looms were usually made out of tree branches that they found. And you can see here we have a lady who is weaving this wonderful blanket. Native American blankets, especially those that are from 100 years ago, are extremely valuable and collected. If this whole loom was filled up with this design and it was in good condition, not even perfect condition, if it had a few holes and some fraying, probably still would be worth today somewhere in the region of, I don't know, $100,000. So we definitely place value, especially when something is handmade. That is something that you know that a machine wasn't involved in, and it may have small imperfections, but because a human being was involved in that creation process, we value that more than a machine-made thing. All right, here we have a Native American mother with her child here, and you can see she's weaving on this larger loom. And the daughter here has a lap loom. That's a loom that fits right in the lap. Sometimes they call them finger looms. And she's working on a smaller thing that might be incorporated or might be its own art in itself, so she can learn how to do it. Native Americans made wonderful blankets to keep them warm, and sometimes even to sell and make extra money or trade for goods too. All right, let's go ahead to the demo so we can see how to do this. For this lesson, you'll need either your fingers to make finger looms with, or you can take fat straws. These are like for smoothies or milkshakes. And I've actually just cut them in half. They were longer. And then I tape them together. And that's going to become my loom for this. And you'll need these nylon loops. So these are the type of loops that you would use to weave those pot holders with the loom, but if you get a bag for a little bit of money, you get a whole bunch of these loops, and you can do all sorts of things with them. Today I've got 15 to make my wristband, like the ones I'm wearing here. And if it feels like it's too small, I can always go back and add more. Let's get started. All right, so I have my loom here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how to put them on, and then you do a lot of the same steps over and over again. I am going to show this because I'm also going to play it during my class, so if kids are like, I'm not sure what to do, they can just look up at any time and see how to do it. But this first one here, we're going to put on and I like to work from left to right. But it doesn't matter as long as you're just consistent and you make sure you get all these straws as you go through. Now I've got it on this first straw, and I'm just going to twist it. So all I did was I took it, I twisted it, and then I'm going to put it over the next one. Then I'm going to twist it, put it over the next one, twist it, and then put it over the last one. So that last one didn't twist very well, so I'm going to try it one more time. Twist, and then put it on. Okay, so now I have this first one here. I'm going to make a pattern with mine, so I'm going to go ahead and choose a green one next, and I'm going to put it right on top. So I'm going to push these down a little bit, and again I'm going to do the same thing. Twist, wrap it around the next one. Twist, wrap it around the next one. And twist, wrap it around the next one, just like so. Now we have 2 on there. Our next step is going to be taking the bottom row and pulling them over this row that's on top. So again, I like to start from the left, but it doesn't matter which end you start on. So I'm just going to pull that over. So see how I took it? I'm able to stretch it, and then I just pull it over the one that was the green one that was right above it. Take the next one, pull it, go over that straw. You have to be real careful to make sure that the green one doesn't fall off while you're pulling off the red one. Red one, and then there's the red one. Okay, so now we just have greens on there. So now I'm going to take my next color and do the same thing I did with the greens and the reds. I put them on the first one, twist, put it on the next one, twist, and if it comes off, just go back and fix it. No worries. And it's nice having it on its own separate loom, so you can stop and take a break, which I like. So I'm going to take the green one, pull it over the blue one and over the straw. Green one goes over the blue, over the straw. Again and again. So if it still looks like it's trying to jump off, just pull it down a little bit more. All right, so now I'm going to do the rest of them just the same way, and you can see here it's starting to build up on here, which is really nice. If they're really loose, just, position them as evenly as you can. Some will be tighter than others. Doesn't really matter which way you twist them, as long as they get twisted in between each one. So here you can see the wristband here. These looms are great too because they will, they can be reused many times, which is nice. I've made about 4 with these now. Same one. Tape's held fine. When I tape them, I tape the bottom and also the back here. Okay, so now is the time to check it. So just kind of stretch it and see if it's going to be long enough. If you feel like it's going to be too tight or you might need a few more rows, Now would be the time to add those in. So I'm gonna see what it's gonna be like if I add one more row of red, blue, and green. Because my wrists are probably bigger than a lot of kids' wrists are. I need a few more, I think. Let's try. So instead of 15, I did 18. Ooh, this one's really tight. There we go. And you know, if you accidentally break the pattern, that's okay too, because I actually did that. It's still gonna look great when you're done. All right, that looks like with a little bit of stretch, yeah, that's gonna be fine for me. Okay, so now, we're gonna take the end here, and I know it's hard to tell what's what, but just try to bring whatever loops from the very end, and that was a red row that we had, so I'm gonna try to put whatever loops I can find of the red one right over that green. And you may have to guess, well, maybe this one will go here and this one will go here. You just wanna try to guesstimate as best you can. And then we're gonna take this one and go over it. But we're not done. So now I've got the loops made here. I need to somehow close off this last row. So this is how we're gonna do this. You're gonna take one row and turn it over and put it on top of the next straw. So I just took this one off, flipped it over, and put it on here. Take the bottom one, go over it. Now you're gonna take this one and you're gonna pull it off, and you're gonna put it onto the next row. Ooh, it's getting tight. It's getting tight. Pull that string so it's gonna go where I want it to go. Okay, and I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna pull it off. Over it. And now we just have one more. So I'm gonna pull it over here. Take that last one, pull it over it. And then I am going to take this one right here, and if you can, pull it a little bit harder so you can get a little bit extra on there. And then I'm gonna just kind of try to tuck it under or make a little knot. Just try to do either, because I think they're gonna hold pretty good even if we don't tie that one in a knot. And now I have my very comfortable, beautiful sweatband. I hope you enjoy making that. I sure did like it. Oh, I hope you enjoyed that lesson. It was really fun for me to make those. All right, so for our really interesting fact of the day, it has to do with parrotfish. I don't know if you've ever seen these beauties of the ocean, but they are amazing. But did you know that their teeth are woven together? Oh my gosh, and it creates such a strong chainmail that they can exert 530 tons per square inch. They munch on corals like apples. And I don't know if you've ever touched a coral, but that's like as hard as a rock. So that's my interesting fact. And remember, as always, be kind, do something nice for someone in your house today, and keep on making great art.